Hey there gardeners, Chris here from Garden Steading, and I wanted to take a look at this brand new product from Birdies. This is their Elevated Planter, and this one here that you can see before you is the biggest version. This is 2.7 meters long, 0.765 meters wide, and that is the biggest configuration you can get. They do go quite a bit smaller if that's what you're after, but to me this seems like the best value option. Let's have a talk about the actual garden bed, or planter I should call it. I keep calling it a garden bed itself because this thing is pretty cool. I do have to apologize, you will probably be looking at it and it's not the flattest, and it's because we just don't have really almost any flat ground on the whole property, and as a result the bed does look a little bit uneven. That's just because the ground here is super uneven. If I had put it together up at the shed, it'd be a different story, but carrying this thing around is a two-person job, and for that reason I just assembled it on the grass in my garden right near where we're going to put it, and I'm really excited for getting this in. All you, I would say, need is either a screwdriver or an electric drill with a screwdriver attachment for putting it together. They give you the spanner and you can get this put together in an hour or two. Really simple assembly. Easy assembly, and you're going to end up with a really cool result like this. And obviously these are Australian made, so if that's important to you, that's an even bigger win, which certainly for me is a huge bonus. So I've already mentioned the length of the garden bed. This is 2,710 millimeters long, the longest version you can get. You can get it in, I think, a 2.1, 1.3. There's a couple of different ways you can basically buy this, and you can get it in two different widths. This is the 765 mil wide, but there is also, I think off the top of my head, maybe a 465 or a 455 millimeter wide version as well, which does come in a little bit cheaper. The difference in width compared to the difference in price, to me, makes me always think I'm gonna buy the biggest option available. And certainly in this case, I feel like buying the almost 3 meter long by almost 1 meter wide, not really quite, 3/4 of a meter wide, was by far the best value for money. As far as planting room, it holds 765 litres of soil. Obviously, Birdies have designed it to hold that capacity of potting soil. They're very careful to note potting soil, because if you were to fill one of these with water, there is a pretty decent chance it could collapse because it'd be holding 750 or so kilos of water. Obviously, for our use, that's not going to be the case, but if you were to convert it into a wicking bed, you might need to have a little bit of a think about that. So 765 litres of potting soil is quite an extensive amount of soil, and you will need to think about how you're going to fill it, whether you get a soil delivery or whether you buy bags of soil. And potting soil does seem to be the recommendation with these beds, is to fill them. As far as the assembly, I found the assembly process really easy. I didn't have the instructions when it first arrived because I got a couple of things in my order. Either they've made a really logical, nice, easy to put together product, which it's just structurally sound, everything makes a lot of sense and you can do it without the instructions, or I'm a genius. You take your pick as to which of those two things is true. I'll probably go with the latter personally. But yeah, I got it together the way I thought it went together was all correct, and as a result, when the instructions turned up, it was just a matter of tightening up the base of the garden bed itself. The bed is, of course, made mainly of the Birdie panels that anyone who's used their products before will be familiar with. The corners are a little bit different because the corners are an incorporated kind of leg system, and it's all the old folded metal. So it's not corrugated on those corners, but it is the same type of metal, and it's just folded to give it structural rigidity. And the legs, all 6 of them on this particular bed, have an inner reinforcement on them, which just makes them a little bit stronger. So a really nice, kind of light, I guess you would say, design, which does mean I can actually pick this up and carry it around on my own. Not that I'd really recommend it because it's long and unwieldy, but it is a possibility. The bolts and nuts are stainless steel. Obviously I'm gonna have to have a look at what they call the material that these are made out of. Magnesium alu zinc steel construction, and these are a thicker panel than most of the competition garden beds that I have tested. And why do I mention that? It's just because it makes for a stronger bed. Obviously, especially in a big bed like this, the strength is important. They've got a nice deep corrugation in their panels as well, which again gives strength. And because you've got a nut and a bolt, well, you've got 5 of them, is it? Yeah, 5 of them at each join. That again gives lots and lots of strength. You've got a central support, which adds further strength in the very middle of the bed. And I did consider jumping in the bed itself and laying down to take a shot to give you an idea. And it's not that I don't think the bed can hold the weight, I just have to be super careful getting in there, because obviously those panels in the base of the bed, they're just one layer of panels, and while some of them are overlaid down near the ends, the middle ones basically are butted up against each other, so there's no overlapping of the corrugations, which probably does mean they're a little bit less strong, but they should also drain that bit better. So that is, yeah, something to keep in mind. That was my big thing when I assembled this bed. I was saying to myself, surely each of the panels in the base of the bed overlaps by one corrugation, but that's not the case right in the middle. And that was why I thought maybe I was missing a piece. But as it turns out, no, it's all assembled now, assembled the way they said, and there's no dramas at all. Now again, I will emphasize just how structurally sound those legs are. And certainly in the corners, as opposed to those middle panels, they actually have an inner piece that is again a folded piece of that metal material that they use. And yeah, it's noticeable. It is nice and strong. There are holes through the rails that hold the base in the bed, and obviously that is for drainage. You do get an included set of spanners. I think I ended up with 3 for this particular garden bed. And that does mean you don't need your own tool to do that. You do need a screwdriver, or I think the recommendation is a power drill. I've got a little Bosch 12-volt power drill that I use to tighten everything up once it's assembled, and that makes that job nice and quick and easy, and that's what I'd recommend doing as well. So my final thoughts on the Birdies Elevated Planter, obviously very well made. I really do like that they're Australian made. Seem to be using real quality materials, which is great, and it does reflect the older style beds. Obviously some of the construction pieces of these are a bit different, but the panels are the same, and so we've seen them lasting well long term, and that should be the case with one of these beds as well. I will probably put some pavers or some big panels or something under the legs where I'm putting it, because it's not going to be perfectly flat, to just get it as flat as possible for the ideal kind of drainage scenario. But for anyone who's just on flat ground, this is going to be an easy thing to put together, put in place, and start filling with soil. I will mention, from a value perspective, as I've already said, I think the bigger beds are the best value. And you're going to have to figure out if you've got the money to buy one of these big beds. These are 40% off at the moment. I think I paid about $300 plus delivery, so about $320, $330 all up, which I thought was pretty good for this much bed space. I feel like the value proposition is in the big beds. However, if you've got a bit more money and you want to just be able to divide it up a little bit more, multiple of the smaller beds are probably going to be a cool option for you. I should also note that one of the nice things is we're retaining the Birdies protector across the top of the joined panels. However, because of the way they've folded those corners and those legs at the top there, there's not really any need for them. I don't think you could easily hurt yourself on this bed, which is great. So that is again another nice design feature. Now, do you have any questions at all? Ask me down below in the comments. I'm by no means an expert. I haven't even filled this bed with soil yet, but I will have an update video when we do that. At the moment, I'm just trying to figure out how to make sure the soil holds a heap of moisture, because we're on tank water, we have very limited water, and we're having issues with our garden beds getting a bit too dry at the moment. Even with quite heavy watering, with the soil getting a bit hydrophobic. It is unseasonably warm and we haven't had much rain, but I just want to make sure that this doesn't happen on this particular bed. If you got any hints for that, let me know, because I'm always looking for a better way to do things.